Jugat Gore Name Sat Gore Name Sri Guru Deve Name Hat Gore Name Jugat Gore Name Sat Gore Name Sri Guru Deve Name.
Good evening and welcome to Satsang with John David, live from the Open Sky House. You are very welcome to join the meeting by Skype. The Skype address is Meeting John David. You can ask a question or say hello. And if you like to spend some more intense time with John David, the next possibility would be the Christmas retreat from the 23rd until the 27th of December. Very beautiful opportunity to go into silence the end of the year. And from the 10th until the 31st of January, John David is holding his 20th India retreat in south of India, Tiruvannamalai. And there are 2 places left, so take your chance. And information to both retreats you find on the website johndavidsatsang.international. And you're very welcome to visit the Open Sky House as a guest or a helper, and especially in January, if you come as a helper, your stay will be for free. Thank you.
Welcome to Satsang. Okay, so some jokes. In school, the topic is, if I were the boss. All the children start writing wildly. Only Michael does not do a streak, doesn't do anything. What's up with you, Michael? The teacher asks, astonished. Michael says, I'm waiting for the secretary. 3 guys are stranded on a desert island. They find a magic lantern containing a genie who grants them each one wish. The first guy wishes he was off the island and back home. The second guy wishes the same. The third guy says, I'm lonely. I wish my friends were back here. Eve asks Adam in the Garden of Eden, Adam, do you desire me and me only? Sure thing, baby, replies Adam affectionately. Who else? So, I had a very strong week since our last meeting because, as you know, I'm working on editing the new book, Remarkable Meeting. What is it? Can't even remember the title. What is it? Meetings with Remarkable People. Right. And this is very interesting because it turns out that this book has got its own life. I've actually experienced this before, but for example, at one point I was going to have 10 chapters, and then suddenly the book announced that actually we should upgrade 2 more people, so 12 people. And somehow yesterday, and it hasn't quite worked through yet, suddenly the book announced not this person, but that person. So right on the 11th hour, I'm going to change 1 chapter and take an interview I did probably 8 years ago with somebody, which, was quite a nice interview, but I wasn't actually thinking of it for the book. But somehow the book's thinking about it. It's very interesting. It has really, it takes over. The book takes over. It's very interesting. For example, I've been designing the cover together with Turia, and we started off, or rather actually she started off by taking one of my paintings and choosing a little detail which you couldn't actually recognize as my painting. It was just small detail, which she kind of blew up into the cover. And then over the last, I guess, week, we've met sometimes. And each time, we have a little sort of brainstorm and a new idea, and we do that idea, and then that idea leads to another idea and another idea. It's very, very interesting. So that actually the book kind of designs its own cover. So this is also very fascinating to watch the process of how something manifests, really. And today I've been editing the transcript from Andrew Cowitt. If you remember, he came here last year, I think, and gave a talk, and I invited him to our Indian retreat, and he's invited himself to come this year to the Indian retreat, so we get him again. And we've actually had a bit of a strong thing going on in the last days because he wanted to make some changes which I didn't really want to accept in the book. So it was a very kind of strong moment, but now we've worked it out and we're moving on. And so I was reading his chapter today, and it was very interesting because in the course of his talk, some of you were there in January, he was saying how when he came here to this community, he was actually very touched from this community. And of course, when we live in the community, some of us are touched sometimes, but of course, when you live for many years in a beautiful house like this, with the lovely people, very open-hearted people, you can easily take it for granted. I've never forgotten about 30 years ago going to a beach in Goa in India. You know, Goa is a state where they're Christians, because I think maybe the Portuguese came there, I'm not quite sure. So they're all Christian, they have churches. And there's this amazing paradise beach, incredible paradise beach. And behind the beach there's a small fishing village. And I used to go there when there was basically almost nobody there. There was one chai shop and you know, me and the dog and a couple of other people. I mean, it was completely like a fishing village. And they used to make a special kind of alcoholic drink out of the coconut, some part of the coconut tree. They called it feni. I think it was called feni. And it's really like, it's like drinking pure acid, actually. And it's so strong that many of the people in the village were dying from drinking this stuff because it rotted their guts completely. So, of course, they were very unhappy people, actually, in that village. And they almost never went on the beach. I mean, in India, they have almost no tradition for, you know, well, they certainly don't take their clothes off and lie in the sun, of course. And they don't have any tradition for swimming. If they would swim, I mean, occasionally now younger Indians can be seen swimming, but they swim with all their clothes on, you know, their sari or whatever it is, because, of course, it's completely forbidden to kind of show your body in public, or even in private, probably. I think there's many husbands who never see their wife naked, even. So I was always amazed by this fishing village because, of course, it's absolutely paradise place. And now, 30 years later, when I would go back there, which now I wouldn't go back there because it's become like you know, there are like 100 chai shops on the beach and there's thousands of people literally on the whole beach is now covered like a beach in Italy. And so it's become like a absolutely top international tourist destination. But all those years ago, the people who were living there couldn't really appreciate their own beauty. They were living right next to this incredible beauty and yet somehow didn't touch them. Anyway, Andrew, I was reading today that he was very touched from our community. He found it very beautiful that you guys had decided to make a priority in your life and that you were here living together, and he could feel the tremendous love we have here in this community, and he could also recognize the fruits of this love. These, for example, sitting in this room, we're surrounded by the most amazing collection of art. It's almost an unbelievable collection, actually, which we've made over something like 12 years. Absolutely brilliant paintings from many, many of our exhibitions, because somehow we always have the chance to select the best painting in each exhibition. So we managed to collect what we consider to be kind of master works. But do we really see them? Do we really see them? Because we come into this room twice a week and sit down 3 times a week, and maybe we don't see them anymore. So it's very beautiful when somebody like Andrew, who's a very kind of sophisticated character, makes those kind of references. And I think it's really important that we understand the reflection of what he's telling us, actually. I mean, there was a time when I think he was the first person who had met Papaji in about 1987, 8, something like that, about 3 or 4 years before I met Papaji, and before he became quite well known. So Andrew met him when there was maybe nobody else there, just Andrew and him. And of course, Andrew had this explosive opening with Papaji, and Papaji had encouraged him to go out and share, because at that moment, Papaji thought he was actually dying. So he kind of handed his life's work over to Andrew. And he told Andrew, never doubt, never doubt. It's a very strong thing. Yeah? Anyway, and of course Papaji didn't die and actually became very, very popular. So suddenly he was sitting with 100 or 200 people and became very well known. And now there is many people teaching under his name. And I'm very touched because in this new book, it's going to end up with 6 of those teachers in the book. So it's actually, somehow it's turning out to be a Papaji book. I didn't really plan it like that because it was all kind of people I'd met along the way who I felt were remarkable. And but somehow it seems like Papaji is a bit orchestrating what's going on in this book. And we're going to have 6 of his main teachers in the book. This is very beautiful. Gangaji will also be there. Muji will be there. Andrew will be there. And we're extremely lucky because I think I told you I had gone to Amsterdam to meet Ganga. And it turns out that, you know, she was absolutely living as Papaji's partner for many years. They had a child together. Papaji was 65 and she was 23, so a big age difference. And we got some photographs actually yesterday which showed Papaji at 65 with this beautiful woman. She's really very, very lovely woman, I would say. Who was young, 23 years old, and this beautiful little girl, maybe by then she might have been, I don't know, 26 or something, but anyway, with the daughter and Papaji, the 3 of them together. It's an absolutely amazing picture. I've never seen such a picture. And now that little girl is grown up. Now she's in her 40s and has got her own young children. And it seems her mother really enjoyed the interview we did, and so Mukti is her name, the daughter's name, has sent me the most amazing photographs, really. I was so touched I could only really cry last night. They're so beautiful. And as far as I know, these photos have never been put in the public before. I actually was cheeky enough to ask if she would have a love letter from Papaji I could also print. And she said, yes, well, it could be possible, but unfortunately they're in storage and we don't have access at the moment to the storage. And then last night when we were talking about this, we suddenly realized, of course, that these love letters won't be the kind of love letters that some people might write to each other, you know. It's not these kind of chocolate and, you know, romantic kind of love letters. Almost certainly these love letters are actually teachings of truth, because there was a period as this little girl was growing up where Papaji wanted her to be educated in Europe. So from the age of about 6, maybe through until 14, they only met Papaji occasionally. And she was living for maybe 8 years in Europe. And of course, Papaji was writing constantly. So these love letters, I suddenly realized these love letters are probably not, you know, I love you kind of letters. Almost certainly not. They're almost certainly actually the teachings. And so actually, this is another new book, because if I could get my hands on these letters, we've got another beautiful book, I think. Completely unpublished teachings, basically. So this is very, very amazing. So to see how things have their own life, you know, if you just sort of gently squeeze them, they kind of manifest. You know? Yeah. Good. So I'm a bit exhausted actually, because I've been. You get lost in the words somehow, and you get lost in the text. Anyway, it's very, very touching on one level. It's very, very touching. So somebody might like to come and talk to me, because otherwise I'll have nothing more to say, I think. Come on, Kashi, don't be humble and shy and all this Dutch bullshit. You have to be careful, you know. Ohm's now, he's probably an expert on Dutch bullshit. He's been living for 3 or 4 years in Holland. You know?
Sorry.
Okay. You've just been in a few days in Holland, I
A
think.
few days in Holland. Yes.
Is that strong for you to go back to Holland?
Strong. I liked it to go. I like to see my uncle. I have still one uncle, and he becomes 88.
88?
88. And
Was he the priest?
no, he's
No.
not a priest.
Not
No,
a priest.
no.
Okay.
And it was touching to see him. He's become very fragile,
Yeah,
but he's a lovely uncle.
yeah,
Not judging me, or I talked about the community, and he talked about things of his life, and
yeah.
it was very nice. Yes, and he appreciated very much that I came with my twin brother. That
You've got a twin brother?
I have a twin
Oh,
brother,
really?
yes,
Oh.
yes, and one elder brother.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So,
Does the twin brother look like you?
no, he's completely different.
Yeah.
He looks more like my father, and I like in the outside of my mother.
Right.
But he's not at all with spirituality. He's no interest at all. And but he's very sweet, lovely, helpful brother.
Right.
So
Right.
caring, and
Okay.
but he is. What I'm doing here, no, that is
He
not.
could understand what you're doing here? Or?
No, I don't think he really understands.
Okay.
So.
Do you know what you're doing here?
But okay. He supported me, yeah. So even if he was not happy when I would say I went to Germany to community.
He's welcome to come and visit you, of course.
Yes, I told him. I say, come and you can stay overnight. No, I will come. I just go. You know.
All right. All right.
But he's a busy man.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. Did you hear what happened in our retreat cellar? As you're kind of the gold medal holder for the Vipassana weekends, we had a man,
Yes,
and
yes.
he contacted us 3 years ago that he wanted to go into our retreat cellar for a few days.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then he came out and
And
went back.
then it took him 3 years, you know. He was kind of writing to us, you know, I'm planning this, you know, retreat cellar, you know, something. And he was writing for 3 years. And finally, I think it was last week, he showed up. And he was going to be in the cellar for, I think, 5 days, was it? And after maybe 3 days, he suddenly appeared in the gallery.
I remember.
And he was going to leave at that point. You know, he had enough. So I got a call, you know, to say, well, he's bolted the cellar and he's about to leave. Yeah? So anyway, Radha spoke to him, and he decided to stay a few more days. So he went back. It was a very kind of nice moment. And then I think it was yesterday. He left at 6 in the morning, so we couldn't kind of hold him. We got a call from wherever he'd gone to, and he left his things and his phone and everything here, and rushed home. Yeah, so he didn't really make it through to his 5 days. So would you have anything to say to him about that?
In a way, it is a pity if you walk away, but if it is the first time, perhaps I remember that when I did my first weekend, I also ran away.
Oh, you did?
Years ago.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
yes. I became so angry. I was thinking, well, what I'm suffering here, what I'm doing to myself, and I was running away. So it took me also some time to sit and to stay. And I was not 5 days. It is different if you're sitting alone there for 5 days, or if you do Vipassana island. That is, I think, a
then you
big
get
difference.
the energy support
You
of
have
the other
the energy
people.
support. You're coming and sitting there. That is, I think, easier than if you're sitting alone.
Right. Yeah. And I
and
think
if it
for
is the
him,
first time,
he's not such an expert. You know,
no.
he's got quite a busy mind. I think. Yeah. Anyway, let's hope he comes back.
Yeah.
Actually, it reminds me of a beautiful story that Muji told me. You know, I went to Portugal recently to interview Muji for this book. And during the course of the interview, he told me about what happened when he came to Lucknow. So he came there and spent some weeks just sitting in the meeting, and finally decided to write a letter to Papaji, because that was the way that Papaji liked to bring people. You'd write a letter, and then he would read your letter, and you'd come and sit in front of him. And so then Muji came and sat in front of him, very kind of nervous about what would happen. Mm-hmm. And then apparently Papaji gave him a very, very tough time. He really really gave him the strong treatment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the meeting, during the meeting, Muji was sitting there feeling like, what's going on? What's going on? What is he doing? Why is it like this? Getting more and more angry, actually. He was getting very, very angry. And at the end of the meeting, he could only feel like rushing out. You know, I didn't want to talk to anybody, he just rushed out. And as he was rushing out, somebody was kind enough to say, well, he gave you a tough time. Mm-hmm. And that just confirmed for Muji that he'd had enough. You know, he'd been sitting there for some weeks, but now he saw that this is not luck now, but this is no luck now. And he went home and he started packing his bag like crazy. You know, I'm going to leave this place. You know, I should have left before. You know, this is not luck now. This is no luck now. He was very, very angry, just boiling. And then it was very hot. Often in Lucknow it was extremely hot in the summer. So he decided to go out for a walk. So he left his packing and went out for a walk. And after some time he sat down, and then suddenly everything disappeared. Everything just completely disappeared. He looked at his hands. He couldn't recognize his own hands. He couldn't find anything that he knew as me. Everything went. Everything disappeared. So he got up and he looked at the traffic, and the traffic was all passing like slow motion. There was no sound. The soundtrack had kind of gone, right? He just saw the traffic moving at sort of slow motion. And suddenly, the sky was filled with Papaji's face. And in that moment, he felt this enormous connection to Papaji. And he realized that he never really met Papaji until suddenly this thing happened, right? And the next thing that happened was that he had this enormous feeling that he wanted to go and meet Papaji. So he started running. And he thought he was running to Papaji's house, right? But finally, when he stopped, he discovered he'd run back to his own house. And he decided, you know, not to pack and not to leave. And maybe about a week later, he came to my house. And I met him. You know, we had a kind of our first meeting. Yeah.
Very touchy.
Yeah, it's an amazing story because basically, you know, that emptiness that came to him in that moment has never left him. And actually everything that's happened to him since as a teacher basically came out of that very tough meeting he had with Papaji. And Papaji was basically saying that, you know, you have to go, you have completely to disappear. And I mean, Muji was kind of a spiritual guy, you know, he had some kind of slightly Christian ideas, and he was you know, a very heartful man, and he couldn't understand why Papaji was absolutely smashing him onto the ground. Yeah. Got the twitch. So shall we have a look inside?
Yes.
Okay, so we just tune in together. Somebody remind me that Anushka's on Skype here. Okay, so keeping your eyes closed, maybe you look inside and tell me what's happening.
It's quite silence.
Okay, so bring your
Energy.
attention to this silence. And what's happening now?
I feel a bumping of my heart.
Okay, so stay with this bumping. What's happening now?
Yes, such a rush of energy is flowing through my body, from my teeth, those teeth, to my head, so in my arms, through my whole body.
Okay.
Warmth.
And what's happening now?
It's strange. I feel a little bit as if I'm a little bit turning around or something. A little bit, dizzy is not completely the right word, but I feel my feet on the ground. I feel myself sitting, and still I have the feeling if I'm not completely grounded.
Mm-hmm. So just stay with that feeling of not being grounded.
In the such a meal.
Kind of spiraling around.
Yeah.
what's happening now.
It feels here a little bit heavy. As if the breathing is not completely free.
Okay. So maybe you take some deep breaths, breathe out strongly. And what happens now?
Then are there thoughts that I think that I want to interpretation. Is it sadness? So, and then I think, okay, just let it be.
Right, right. Sounds like some old habits coming back.
Yeah. And that is the thought, stay with the feeling in the breast.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so when you're ready, you can open your eyes. But there was a period when you were actually very quiet, a lot of energy moving, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the dizzy feeling that is something that I don't know so well. It was a little bit as if you're in the middle, in the...
Spiraling.
Yes, I don't know the English word. Yes.
Spiraling,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
yes.
nice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So you can connect, if she's got a good enough connection. How do I do this? I talk to her on the screen, yeah? Hello?
Hello.
Ah, very good. We see you very clearly. We've been talking so much about fish, I thought you might have a fish tail, become a mermaid.
Not yet.
Not yet?
I don't see you in this pity.
I can
Okay.
see you. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you see me now?
No, I see you, but it's like delay, yeah? You are still with Kashi, actually.
Well, actually, I'm not anymore. I'm completely available to you. So don't make a drama out of it. So you've been through quite a strong time in the last week.
Mm. I'm very touched. I don't see you, but I'm very touched.
Oh, really? You still don't see me, even with Kashi?
No. No, I don't
I
know.
probably just disappeared, you know. I'm just floating in the ether now. But we see you very clearly here, so that's very nice. Yeah, yeah.
I can hear you.
You're wearing a white T-shirt or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You look much better in real life than through a text.
Huh?
Do you hear me? I'm saying you look much better in real life than through a text.
I can imagine.
Right. Yeah. So you have the house to yourself tonight.
No, I hope Rafa somewhere gets. Now it's starting. It gets dark and big house, and so I'm always hoping Rafa is somewhere. So.
Okay. And the weather is nice down there?
I guess better than in Germany, but it's now like 18 degrees. It's cold, but sun is shining and probably much more better than Germany.
Right, right.
And the orange koi, the sick orange koi was moving today.
Moving?
He's not more on the space.
Wow, you saved him.
I don't know, I hope. Yeah, he's moving. He was 1 week only under this wood and not eating, and today he was moving. Let's see, maybe he'll survive. Yeah?
Right, right. And the other fish seem to be more energetic now?
Yes.
Yeah?
I would say, yeah.
Right. So we've done a 10-day treatment for them, is that right?
Yes, and now we want to do like 1 week salt treatment. And maybe then it's finished. Then we have like 3 weeks treatment.
Right, good, okay. Well, you've done a wonderful job then.
Yes. We all, yeah?
Everybody,
We all do.
yeah. I think the breakthrough was when Indira managed to find a vet who I think gave this treatment. Yeah, it was his idea for this treatment. Yeah. And you were just leaving on the plane a few days later, so you could take all the medicine.
Yeah.
So somehow existence saved the fish.
Yes. But I'm still not happy that the turtle's still in the bath tube.
No?
I have to say.
You can share the bath with the turtle. Just imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 days in the bath tube was not so nice on David.
Well, but we can't put him in the pond with the salt treatment, can we?
I think so, yeah. I think it's not a problem.
Oh, it's not a problem.
I don't think so, no.
Oh, well, if it's not a problem, you put him in the back in the pond, yeah.
Yes, it would be good, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you have something to talk about?
Well, we talked so much, John David, or? I think it's maybe better not to say anything for the moment. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything to talk, actually.
Okay, good. Very wise.
Very wise.
If you can continue not to talk and not to get emotional, then great changes will come to you.
And I stopped smoking since 7 days. Yeah.
7 days no smoking, wow.
No. It's not so easy, I have to say. I was much more into the smoking than I was thinking. Yeah.
Right. Well, if you can give up smoking, you can probably give up drama too. I mean, you might become just a boring member of the community with no drama at all.
Yeah, I give it a try. Yeah. Yesterday I was thinking it could be very boring. Yeah.
Very boring. Yeah, right.
Boring.
I wouldn't worry too much about becoming boring. No. Yeah. Anyway, you've got a very nice light on you, so you're looking very attractive with your white t-shirt and quiet smile. I
I
can't really imagine it's the same person who I've been talking to on the telephone. Maybe that was somebody else called Anushka. Maybe that was another Anushka.
Well, I think this was an Anushka before she got a lot of screams, yeah?
Ah, good. Ah, the screaming had some effect.
Yeah, probably.
Uh-huh.
For some dates, yeah. That has some effect, yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's very nice to see you all, yeah. It's very nice if you are here now in Spain and to see everybody.
Right.
SatTV, it's really like to be there, yeah. So,
you've got a very good connection tonight because the picture is very clear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Were you able to hear the beginning of the meeting tonight?
About Muji and about what?
Well,
About Papaji?
yeah, I mean, this new book has suddenly sprung to life, you know. It seems to be orchestrated by Papaji himself, actually, yeah.
Yes, very nice. Yeah?
And we're ending up with nearly all the main Papaji teachers in the book. So it's very nice, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also very interested to read this about Mukti, yeah?
Yeah,
About this chapter about Mukti.
it's a really beautiful family, yeah. Papaji used to call it the golden years, you know. He was retiring when he was 65, and then he was living in a very simple way in Rishikesh, you know. It was probably a few years before the Beatles came to Rishikesh. Maybe you know the story that the Beatles came and stayed with Maharishi Yogi and made Rishikesh kind of famous. I mean, well, famous in the West amongst certain people, yeah. But a few years before that happened, Papaji had retired and was staying in Rishikesh. And he would go to any Westerner that he saw, who he thought was interesting. If he felt they had some sense of silence, he would go to them and ask them, "What do you want?" And one day down by the Ganga, on the bank of the Ganga, he met this young woman from Belgium who became Ganga. Yeah, her name was Meera. The Indian people gave her the name Meera. Meera was a famous princess, actually, and she used to go in the street and sing. So people found her a bit crazy, even without her clothes sometimes. But anyway, so Meera is a very loved Indian saint. So the local people gave this name to this young Belgian woman, who they found very sincere. She was quite young. Anyway, one day she met Papaji down by the bank of the river, and he came to her and he said something like, you know, "What do you want?" And she said, meditation, or something like meditation. And then she closed her eyes and she went into some kind of experience like the one I was describing that Muji had. She went into a deep silence and she was deeply touched. And of course, I was deeply touched to hear this story because basically she was studying in Brussels and she's studying philosophy, young woman, and she decided to quit her studies. And she hitchhiked. In those days, you could hitchhike to India. So she hitchhiked through, well, it would have been through, well, I don't know actually where it was through, actually. But it was anyway through Afghanistan before you came to India.
Yeah.
People had a beautiful, you talked so beautifully about Afghanistan in those days. Unfortunately, I could never go there because of the war. But anyway, so she came to Rishikesh and she met Papaji by the river and she had this enormous experience of emptiness. And so the next day she went back to meet him again, but he didn't come. And she didn't know really what to do. How can she meet this man again? Because she was so touched from the first meeting. And then she decided, okay, I stay here under the tree here. I'll stay here and wait for him to come back. And it took him 8 months. Can you imagine? A young woman of 23 or 4 sleeping under the tree by the bank of the Ganga in India, in a foreign country, with very little money, waiting for this man to turn up again for 8 months. Can you imagine this? This is really like an extraordinary story, actually.
Yeah.
And then he showed up one day, and then he somehow became her teacher, and they used to go on long walks together. And then he would also go away sometimes. He'd say, well, now I need to go and see my students, and he'd disappear for maybe a month or something like this and come back. And then after some time, he invited her to travel with him, and they went to Vrindavan, which is the home of Shiva.
Krishna.
Yeah, Krishna, yeah, right. Krishna, you're right, yeah. And there they became lovers. So that was rather nice. He was staying in an ashram and she was staying in a guest house, and they became lovers. And then when they went back to Rishikesh, they made a ceremony down in the Ganga, a kind of, you can say it's a marriage ceremony or partner ceremony. And then later they had Papaji had met various people from the West or from Europe in Rishikesh. And some of these guys, they went back to Europe, and then they invited Papaji, why don't you come? And amazingly, the first town he came to in Europe was Cologne.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I don't know exactly the dates, but anyway, he was here in Cologne maybe,
Isn't it?
40 years ago. He was here in Cologne with Mira, of course. And then they went to some other places, including Barcelona. And when they were in Barcelona, Papaji's visa ran out, so he had to fly back to India. And just before he left, Ganga said, well, I'm pregnant. You know, what shall I do? And then Papaji said, a little Ganga. A little Ganga. Actually, it was a little mirror in those days. So she understood that she should have this child. And that child is now about 40-something years old, and she's got her own 2 children, one little boy and one little girl. And last night she sent me some pictures. It's very beautiful. We have a very nice connection now with Ganga and the daughter Mukti. And we got this amazing pictures showing the little girl when she was maybe 4 years old or something, with this beautiful mother, and Papaji, of course, looking very young compared to how I met him. So it's an amazing, beautiful story, actually. And as I was saying earlier, I've asked them if they have any love letters I could publish. Can you still hear me? Or?
Yeah, I hear everything, yeah.
You're very quiet. I thought you maybe had left us.
No.
Right.
I'm so happy that you are so happy, yeah? Really, I feel that you're very touched from all this, yeah, and you're really into this book. And
yeah, I'm very touched, actually. I even had a mystic experience last night, but I won't put that into the public.
Why not?
Anyway, so I'm doing very well, yeah. I'm doing very well, yeah. And I was sleeping with my 2 lovers last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now Amelia and John David have become very good friends, so now she will cuddle up with me. So this was a bit my dream, that she would let me kind of actually hold her and, touch her. And so we slept together and we woke up together this morning. It's very, very sweet, actually. So this is nearly taken about 3.5 years for that. Yeah. Anyway, so we're getting on very well together. Okay, so I think we're almost, yeah. Good. Well, it's very nice to see you, and I haven't detected any hint of drama tonight, so I'm very, 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 very impressed. So whatever's going on inside right now, if you could keep that going, you'll be surprised. Can you see me, actually? Can you see me?
What?
Do you see
No, I
me?
don't see you, but I'm hearing you. It's very nice. I'm just listening. It's very nice.
Okay,
It's
all
very
right.
nice.
Okay, good, good. Okay, well, give my love to the fish, and also to Rafa, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting better. Yeah, we're getting better.
Be nice to him.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay, bye.
Good night. Good night. Very good. Wow. Miracles do happen. Okay, so thank you.